Ready then? That really looks like fantastic. Doing enough of that by ourselves.
Yes.
Hello and
Hello.
welcome. How are you? Welcome, Kate, to the Royal Gossip Podcast.
Welcome, Joey Jojo. How are you?
I am fantastic. Are you ready for round two?
I don't have my boxing gloves today, so...
Well, we are going to end up getting back into more of Finding Freedom, so...
Okay, alright.
I guess I should have an opening statement. Obviously, with the revelations of the book, there were some heightened, shall we say, emotions
You mean your hissy fit last week? So I just wanted to clear the air because obviously there's been a huge amount of tension behind the scenes. I don't think we haven't even spoken about this since last time. No, we haven't.
We want to
No.
keep it sacred and in the room so we don't wear out the topic. But I just thought it was best to clear the air with a statement, which is that I accept your apology and that I'm ready to move on. And if we could all, no names here, act with some decorum this week.
Sure, why not?
Okie doke. Let's get started with the general news, which is, well, the big news is The Crown's coming back, November 15th.
Eagerly awaiting that.
Ooh, that's going to
Tell
be
us
exciting.
more, please, Joey Jojo.
Well, from the preview, I can tell you, bugger all. That is
Oh,
for
really?
sure. It was extremely brief, and we only saw literal glimpses of the thing I'm most curious about, which is Miss Gillian Anderson being Margaret Thatcher.
Oh my goodness, I did not know this.
Oh,
How did I not know
yes.
this was happening? This is fantastic.
Yes. She is going to go to town on that.
Oh, she will be so good in that too.
And you wanted, I'm like, at least let me get a look at the makeup or what they've done or nothing. But no, they just show the back of her helmet here briefly, and you're like, oh, huh.
Oh, that'll be very exciting.
Yes. So I assume a fuller trailer will be forthcoming before that point. But yes, as for now, there is a teaser trailer that is available, which we will tweet out before this episode.
Excellent. Fantastic.
The other thing, I think there's a few people who are so special they get late birthday mentions. So happy birthday to the late Princess Margaret.
Oh, absolutely. Our style and lifestyle guru.
Who would only be, I say only 90, but she could very well still have been with us. But happy 90th birthday.
She loved the booze and the fags too much.
Didn't she
Sorry
ever?
for our American audience. That's what we in Australia used to call cigarettes.
Sure, you just want to blurt that word out. But I must say, yes, she's up having gin and tonics in Church of England heaven now, looking down on us all.
Do you think she's in the higher Church of England? You know,
And of course, mindful of the teachings of the church.
Yeah, she'd be in that really posh one that we've only got one of here in Brisbane.
She'd be in the royal box, well and truly.
That's what she said.
That's what they all say. So, the Queen is still on holidays.
Well, why wouldn't you be at this
Well,
moment?
absolutely. And we'll get into who, but she's been joined by more of the family, so she's
Lovely.
on a break.
We were on a break.
But also, this must be the most weird trip up there that she's had because she's basically taking a holiday from a holiday. This isn't after her... Usually she would work right up to the point that they go to Balmoral, but she was basically... I mean, even though she'd been on calls and stuff, she was sort of...
She knighted Captain Tom.
Yeah, that's true. She did a few things, but she certainly hadn't been out and about. And I would think after being so unrelenting in the amount of work that she does, she must be now really kind of like, oh...
Well, what does one do?
Yes, she must be missing it. I mean, she doesn't hear her theme song 10 times a day.
Well, no, and people can't sing it to her at the moment because they're not singing in... Well, they're not allowed to sing in public places because of the risk of transmission.
Yes. I wonder whether she's just, trotting along on the horse there at Balmoral, just going, God save our gracious me, long live our noble me.
Well, that's what you sing in the shower every
God
morning, isn't it?
me. Everybody who was doing a bit of work got in on VJ Day, which apparently we're calling it again.
Sorry?
Well, for a while there, Victory over Japan Day was called Victory in Europe or something more euphemistic and less pointed at the Japanese.
Oh, okay.
But that seems to have been a fad because everybody called it Victory over Japan Day again. And being the 75th anniversary, all the big speech makers were out and about. The Prince of Wales leading everybody. He did a great speech, although he was at some sort of cenotaph, but it was in a garden with a very limited number of people. Made a fine sort of the kind of stuffy speech you would make at a memorial. I mean, you're not going to come up with any wacky concepts there. But I did think it was strange. Let me show you the picture of them. I was going to tweet it out, but I'm sure everyone follows them on Instagram, so you will have seen the photo of them.
She looks spectacular.
That hat's a ripper, isn't it?
This is Camilla. So for those of you who don't have access to your computer at the moment, she's wearing a lovely, would you call that like a pale ochre or like a dove grey? It's not cream or ivory, but it's very pale, isn't it? It's
one of those pale colours that, depending on the lighting, could throw a different
That's
way.
true, yeah. So she's got a matching hat and coat and glove ensemble, and it's for the dressmakers amongst us. It's impeccably fitted. It's a princess line, except that it's done at the shoulders rather than under the armpit line. So, and appears to be trimmed with some sort of very fine French lace of some sort. It's beautiful, just beautiful.
And Prince Charles went for a light-coloured suit, which I thought for a memorial he would just do a black suit. So that was a little bit weird.
Yes, I'm not a fan. I'm sure there's a whole rule about the buttoning up. I did go and take a what do they call it? An etiquette day course when hubby was admitted to the bar to sort of refresh memories, and there's a whole rule about buttoning on the 3 buttons, and I can't remember, but he's only got his middle button done up. And
I think you only do, well, you definitely never do the bottom button.
Yes.
And I think with a 3-piece you only do the middle button.
Yes. So I always thought you did the top one as well.
They've really smartened him up because he had a big problem with double-breasted suits and looking really quite old-fashioned, and they've really sort of modernised his wardrobe without anything that doesn't feel appropriate or that looks like it's wearing him, but they have sort of modernised him a lot.
He's very big on, I don't want to say upcycling, but they're very much of that make, do and mend school, because people have often commented that they've met him and they've seen that he's proudly showing off all the patches where they've done the invisible or semi-invisible mending on his old coats. He just wears them till they fall apart.
I think that he's got some suits that his great-grandfather wore as Prince of Wales.
Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned that. There was one that they trotted out, that they just keep passing it down.
I do know when they sold all the Duke of Windsor's suits. I wouldn't be interested in the suits, but whoever it was, one of the great auction houses, they did a beautiful coffee table book of all the Duke of Windsor's suits.
Oh, that would have been spectacular.
And there was one that did belong to his father and one that belonged to his grandfather that had just been completely retailored into a more modern thing, but was basically a nearly 100-year-old suit at that time.
My goodness.
And it was one that he wore as Prince of Wales. So you buy something to last, as they say.
Well, that's right. Yes. Oh, spectacular photo.
Yeah, so well done them. And obviously, the Duchess was busy wearing hats and laying wreaths and stuff like that.
Do we know who made that hat?
I don't know. I always want to say every hat's by Tracy because that's a good assumption.
Could be Stephen Jones, though. He
yes.
does a few of hers. I'm getting a Stephen Jones vibe.
Yes, it's not very avant-garde, is it? But
No.
You don't want it to be. You want a classic.
Yeah.
Princess Anne also was very busy all day doing video calls in terms of VJ Day. And a lot of them were actually quite moving. She spoke with a lot of Australian service people over Zoom calls.
Oh, wonderful.
She was speaking to service people at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra. I was quite emotional at some of the conversations that she had with them. She spoke to Corporal Leslie Cook, who must be 200, who was in the 14th Infantry Battalion, and he served in Burma. It was funny, just from the start of the conversation, he just got on the call, he said, "What can I do for you, Your Royal Highness?"
Oh.
And she said, "Well, I was hoping I could trouble you for some of your memories." And she just always knows exactly what to say to just get into an effortless, non-awkward conversation with someone.
I always feel like, out of all the royal family, she's the one that you would most feel at ease with. You would never feel that you had to stand on circumstance with her.
No, and she spoke with Leslie for quite a long time, and he was talking about being in Burma. And she said, "Oh, my great-uncle was in Burma," which was just a tangential way to bring up Lord Mountbatten.
May he rest in peace.
And Leslie, without missing a beat, went, "Oh, we all knew Lord Louis. He would come and speak to us all the time."
Oh, my goodness.
So it was really lovely that they had such a nice conversation.
Oh, my
and as I
gosh.
say, I got a bit emotional because he said, "Well, I better let you go." And he said, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you it was a privilege to serve." And she spoke to everyone, but she said to him in such a sincere way, not like it was just the word she was saying. She said, it's been a real honour to talk to you.
Oh my gosh.
So she just had all these
how wonderful.
Yeah, lovely conversations with these veterans. So that was just a masterclass in how you do it. But Prince Edward and the Countess are off this week.
Up to?
They are at Balmoral.
Lovely. So
they're spending time up there. I'm sure the Queen and Lady Louise are out horsing about as they do. But I tell you who was the big winner out of VJ Day was Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge. Because he also did a speech, but he absolutely nailed it. He's become such a phenomenal public speaker, and I'm not just saying that.
Okay.
He got up and and what was perfect about a speech at a memorial like that is it really was like 4 or 5 minutes. Because you don't want something like that to go on and on.
No.
But he got up and spoke, had no notes, didn't seem to be a teleprompter because the camera was quite far back from him. But he just got up and spoke very naturally, but it was just one of those perfect thank you for your sacrifice type speeches. But yeah, he just really nailed it.
Fantastic.
And I think he's from that new school of, everything's an Instagram video. No one's looking to me to get up here and tell a 20-minute story off cards about something I wasn't at or anything like that.
Yes.
So he just did a really great, as I say, it wasn't off the cuff because it was a perfect speech, but he either memorised it or he's got incredibly good vision and the teleprompter was very far away, which was really great. Didn't see the Duchess there, but my God, if you had that many small children, would you? You wouldn't want to take time away from them, and there's no way you could take them to that.
No.
But she retweeted about her campaign that she's worked a lot on behind the scenes, which is Shout 85258, which is a big campaign for, I think it's basically for kids, where if you text Shout to 85258, you can have a text conversation with someone about your mental health and pressures that you're under. And obviously with Results Day looming for students around the world, it's like a high-pressure situation. And one of the things she mentioned in the tweet, or perhaps it was Instagram, was that out of the exam age testers who used the system, 52% of them said they had no one else they could talk to. I thought that's a terrible statistic.
That is terrible.
You don't realise that people don't have anyone to talk to. And it just made me really think how incredibly lucky you are to have me. I mean, do you understand that for the grace of God goes you yourself?
I do. I tell everyone that I speak to about what a blessing you've been in my life.
I really am.
For the most part, except concerning the Sussexes.
No, going to cut that part out. Yes, starting it. Yes, Kate, that's true. I really am a river to my people. Now, Princess Beatrice and Eduardo,
yes,
are back from their honeymoon.
Lovely. And nice to see. Well, I didn't see any pap shots of them, so I'm very glad that
there
were.
Well, I don't know whether it was the paps, but there is one shot of them. That was highlighted again by my mum, our crack reporter.
Yes.
Who's done a deep investigative report on this one.
Patty Ann on the scene for us.
Listen, hold on to your hats and wigs, because I'm going to show this to you and see if
I haven't seen this yet.
See if you divine from this. Sorry for the rustling of paper, but have a look at this picture and see if
she's pregnant.
Oh, I thank you.
Okay, baby on the way.
Right? I'm saying right like I ever would have noticed that.
Yes, very much so. Oh, well, hopefully we'll hear some happy news in the next 2 to 3 months, but that's fairly obvious, isn't it?
It's one of those things where I'm saying yes now that Mum pointed it out to me, but
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'll put that photo up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/RoyalGossPod, so we can all glare at it. But
Yes.
That's one of those photos where you go, well, that would be more than enough for New Idea to decide.
Well, New Idea said that the Duchess of Sussex had ruined her wedding. And I'm thinking that's a pretty miraculous effort to be able to do that from half a world away. So...
Oh, yeah. Oh, her wedding. Yes.
Yes. Very weird.
Ridiculous. So I think we're announcing it, right? We were in first with this.
Absolutely. Watch this space. So, Corona baby. Workshopping some names.
Princess Corona? No, that's bad.
Well, there was that episode of Seinfeld where we wanted to call that child 7. Could we call this 19?
If it's a boy, I think Andy's out. Randy's definitely out.
Oh,
what if it was Randy-Andy? Too soon?
Yeah, so I'm sort of thinking of flashbacks to Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Spike when they all lost their memories in Tabula Rasa, and he goes, "You called me Randy?
Oh, yes.
Why didn't you just call me desperate for a shag, Giles?" Anyway, sorry.
So the rumour's out. We've confirmed it.
Yes.
Based on nothing. Which leaves us with Princess Eugenie and Jack, who are also at Balmoral.
Oh, are they? Lovely.
So they'll be having fun there. But I realised with them, the other thing we should do is just announce a pregnancy rumour with them every week until it's true. Because sooner or later...
Well, that's what New Idea did with Tom Cruise and Katie...
Holmes?
Yes, thank you. Had to remember. Haven't heard from her.
No, she's keeping quiet, isn't she?
Yes.
So that's the general roundup of what's happening with the family, because obviously a lot of people on holidays and the VJ stuff. There was a lot more detail there, but look, it's not that hilarious. So I guess we go back to...
Dun, dun, dun.
If you will just behave with some decorum this time. Number one, you have now read the book.
Put me on the spot. Not all of it, no.
Oh, I love it. This is what I was hoping would happen, because you're not able to dispute anything I tell you is in the book.
No, if listeners will forgive me, in the space of 2 weeks, I had 3 manuscripts across my desk, and essentially, this has been my downtime, and I wasn't expecting to have to review. One was for my job, one is for a friend's daughter, and so everything's been pushed back. And I kind of felt that hopefully Joey Jojo will have himself under control this week, and I'll hear the actual truth about the book.
Listen, hear you.
I have been across Twitter, and I've been following all my Sussex Squad, hashtag Sussex Squad girls. Call out to you. Oh, and boys, sorry.
Would I take things in the book out of context and blow them out of proportion?
Yes, you would.
Would I, every time I started losing an argument, just change the subject, as I noticed last week I very much did several times? Of course not.
Well, I'm always going to come back to so you wanted them to stay in a family that was making excuses for a pedophile.
You can't use that as the catch-all for everything going forward. And also, we don't want to bash the family too hard on that, because what are we? Listen, we can't get back onto him because that's...
No, we've got to move on.
Well, we'll get back to him at a certain point, but we'll never get out of Finding Freedom if we start in on that. The one piece of drop the silverware news was this Harry yelling at the Queen situation.
What?
Now, I believe that little Omid got into hot water with his bosses, Harry and Meghan, because he let go this incident that happened. Now, to be fair to him, which I shall do, he's already denied that he said this, nor that this thing ever happened.
Well, Prince Harry has denied this happened.
No, Omid is saying, not only didn't this happen, I never said it.
Oh, okay.
So, basically there was this quote of Harry, which he denied, but a radio host, Dan Wootton, who's a great guy, and you leave him alone.
He's the worst of the worst. He shares tweets from people who actually have said horrendous, hateful things about Harry and Meghan and Archie.
Do you think you shouldn't support people who do horrendous tweets, Kate? Good. I'm very glad to have heard you say that. Let's just table that item for a little bit.
I was young. I needed the money.
To that.
Okay.
Oh, the trap springs shut.
Oh, dear.
Dan Wootton came back and said, I heard you say it, and you said it. So,
to Omid?
Yes.
Oh, where did this alleged incident happen?
I don't know.
Okay.
Omid said when he was twitting, he twatted the following.
Okay.
I've tried to stay off Twitter in the recent days, but I need to comment on false reporting that has been attributed to me. I never said Prince Harry yelled or shouted at the Queen. Not in an interview or in the book. Ridiculous claim to make. Wootton then said, Scobie's just had a major telling off from his bosses, Harry and Meghan. Here's the exact quote from you. Harry had to intervene. He called his grandmother and said, I don't know what the hell is going on. This woman needs to make this work for my future wife. Being Harry confronting the Queen about her dresser, Ms. Kelly, not coming to the party tiara-wise.
Yeah.
So he has Harry yelling at the Queen about this woman, talking about Angela Kelly, unsure if that was said, unsure if it's true. In other words, I don't know whether Harry said that, and I don't know whether Omid said he said it.
I can't imagine Harry ever taking that time with his grandmother. And I don't know, why would Angela, what's her name, Kelly?
Angela Kelly.
Why? Oh, she was the lady that did the alterations for Beatrice's dress. Beatrice? Yes. why would she feel that she has the power, this Angela Kelly, to tell Harry?
Because she necessitates the trying on of the tiaras, which is a whole event before the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some bunker under the palace or place where they gather various tiaras and have a trying on process for the bride.
Mm-hmm.
They very much wanted the Vladimir tiara, which is an extremely large grand tiara. You might be able to picture it's got quite big circular loops on it, and the Queen very seldom wears it.
Mm-hmm.
There seemed to be a bit of back and forth where Harry was getting in touch with Angela Kelly and saying, let's get in and try it on, and she wouldn't get back to him. The reason she didn't get back to him is because she was told not to get back to him by the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Because in royal circles and in any upper class circles, when I don't get back to you, that means no.
Okay.
That's because the answer is no. They didn't want her to wear it. They wouldn't let her wear it. So when Harry pressed Angela for where is it and she didn't reply, that's the answer.
Mm.
Is it possible that Harry, who can be a cranky little shit, even according to his own book, didn't get angry enough at his grandmother to go, where is this woman in the tiara? That's not the craziest story I've ever heard.
I just don't understand. I mean, what are we basing any of this on? I mean, why? I mean, who are we taking as gospel for this, the fact that this whole conversation even happened? I mean, do we know that Meghan even wanted that?
According to the book, she did.
Oh, okay. So in the book,
so it's their version of the story that she wanted that tiara, and there seemed to be they took it to be recalcitrance. Am I using that word right?
I don't know.
By the palace,
sense, yes, yeah.
To give her the tiara, whereas I'm like, oh, that's the answer, and you know that's the answer, that they don't want to say no to you, so they're...
But surely Harry is across all of that. I mean,
I would have
had
thought
35 odd years of acting with the palace. I mean, surely he's gone down this path before.
So is he oversensitive, or he doesn't know how that works? I mean, he's never been fitted for a tiara, but you do know in the firm, if you request something and no one gets back to you, that's your answer.
Yeah.
And that was the answer about this tiara, which is a very huge sparkling tiara, and it would have looked grand on her. But one of the reasons I can speculate why that wouldn't happen, there was a tiara I feel like Eugenie wanted or someone else wanted, that they don't want a tiara that has any bad luck in its providence.
Okay.
And the Vladimir tiara comes from the estate of the late imperial family of Russia.
Ah.
So that is not a great lucky item for you to wear to your wedding.
No.
And if you were aware of that tradition, you wouldn't want to wear it to your wedding either.
No.
So that's, if nothing else, it wasn't a matter of it being too grand or too good for her. I would imagine everyone in the family would go, no, you can't. Something that's come to us through, not through bad means, but by through a story that's not exactly the greatest. It's not like, you know, a tiara that was just gifted by the Girl Scouts to the Queen Mother has no bad providence to it. But something that's come through that kind of, like, you don't want, it's not something lucky to involve in your wedding.
No, it's certainly not something you can talk about in the media reports afterwards and go, oh, well, this lovely piece came from, there's people who are all mass murdered.
And, you know, even with all due respect to the Queen, there's seems to be a lot of Russian imperial and other jewellery that nobody seems to ever mention how it came to be in the hands of the royal family. I'm sure they paid for it in a way that was... It came to them in a way that was a commercial transaction and not inherited. And they don't want to talk about it for whatever reason, being who they had to buy it from or how much they had to pay or whatever the case may be. So that's at least one reason why they would never have given it to her. But this seems to be another thing where they are not understanding how things work.
It just seems to be so... I just find that hard to comprehend, because I think surely this has been explained, but then, you know, I guess they didn't really have the conventional growing up in the palace kind of upbringing. They were off with their mum, you know, not long after.
I suppose so. And look, it's not a big deal, but it's just an example where even I would know, if I was Prince Harry, I would go, Angela Kelly hasn't suddenly gone rogue and decided to ignore me.
Yes.
She's been told to. That's the answer. Let's not press everyone into an awkward situation, because no one's able to say no to anyone once we're all of a certain rank.
Yes.
So that was weird.
I think, though, that with her dress, because that was just so simple and elegant, that I think that 1930s tiara that she did wear was just beautiful and perfectly complemented the outfit. So I think if someone's lending you a tiara for the day, you'd probably be pretty much very happy, whatever you got. But it is interesting that favourite granddaughter got the fringe tiara for her surprise wedding.
It was it is a more spectacular tiara. I don't know, I too thought the one that Meghan wore was really appropriate to the look. And I'm trying to think whether a really high-set, dazzling one would have been too much or...
Yeah, well, I think because the fringe one had the lines going up and down, if you think about that dress that she wore, as in Beatrice wore, which with the lines, there was all that metallic or metal beading on the dress and going down. It sort of had that visual echo of the dress and the fringe, so the fringe tiara. So I think that worked well together. But yeah, I think I can't imagine too many of the other tiaras would have gone very well with that dress that she wore. It was very
There just seems to be a lot of fundamental on the part of Harry and Meghan, a not understanding of how things work, her not understanding what she was getting herself into, and what they come back to again and again is wanting the palace to constantly be rebuffing bullshit stories about them on Twitter and the press, which they never do for anyone.
Except the Botox, and that they do it for Catherine.
That was one time.
Botox, and then another time they went back about the hair extensions.
Was that two separate occasions?
That was two separate things.
Which they probably learnt their lesson in those extremely isolated incidences.
I'm sure there are others. I just don't follow too much of what the Cambridge's media guys rebuff.
If you know anything about the family, the fundamental rule, what is it? You never complain, never explain.
Yep.
And you do not go back and start entering into a back and forth with the press. You never address stories, you never deny stories. Because as I said before, once you start, where do you stop? Where does it ever end? And it doesn't end, and you end up like Meghan and Harry, where their full-time job is denying things on Twitter. That in most cases, and I say most cases, they're denying a thing that no one's heard of until they've brought it up.
Do you mean like the story where they said Meghan was related to one of the top Jack the Ripper suspects?
Was she?
They say that she's related to this guy. I think there was a very sort of dubious sort of connection that they did, but it was through Thomas Markle's side of the family. That she allegedly was related to one of the suspected Jack the Ripper.
So you think psychopathic behaviour runs in the family? The big fundamental mistakes here were that when you go into the royal family, what happens? Everything goes to a committee and everything gets vetted and planned to death by these old fogies, which is A, annoying, yes. B, are they not as responsive as they should be in the modern world? Maybe.
Definitely.
Why I don't say definitely is I think there is sometimes where being reactive is a detriment. And look, they are an organisation, they're like the boat, the Queen Mary. They can only course correct. They can't do sudden U-turns. They can't react quickly. But not every story is...
Queen Mary that's permanently moored in America.
Right, that is bad. Well, Britannia's been retired too. She wanted to do fundamentally what you can't do in the royal family. Tweet on her own. Decide what event she was going to go to. Decide who she was going to follow, what charities she would be patron of, who she would meet with. Everything you can't do when you're royal, she had to have known that, and then from day one started causing trouble that she wasn't able to do that.
How do we know this to be true? Is this in the book?
Because it's basically the whole crux of the book is that they weren't allowed to respond to things, no one would defend them, and basically what Meghan's got out of the move away from the family is she's gone back to having her own PR team, which is her old PR team, her own media team, which is basically the same thing, and being able to say whatever she wants and do whatever she wants. But she was never going to be able to do that inside the family. So why sign up in the first place for a thing that was always going to end in tears very quickly?
Maybe they thought because they were distant enough and would be increasingly more distant from the royal line of succession that these things wouldn't impact on them. Maybe Harry felt that he had more freedom than he actually had, and when he tried to test it out, realised he didn't have as much as he had. If he's...
Oh, I think that. And I would say, in defence of Harry, I'm beginning to suspect he is not very smart.
Oh, don't you say that. You can't speak about Harry like that.
Sorry.
He's had an incredible education. And
well, we all know then what that means. Fucking nothing. Because he had... The thing is, yes, there's that whole big
infrastructure there. They check everything. They vet everything. And on several occasions, having gone rogue from that has blown up in Harry's face.
Such as?
He was told not to have his own computer. He had his own computer anyway, and Russian hackers broke into his computer and stole over 200 unseen photos, including personal photos of the Queen. Never happened to any other member of the family, all of whom would be targeted. Why? Because he didn't do what he was told.
Wow.
The Greta Thunberg telephone conversation debacle. Harry didn't want his phone calls controlled. So what happened then was some comedy hoaxers rang him up pretending to be Greta Thunberg.
Oh, God.
Doing a very bad accent. And he went on to have what he believed to be a private conversation with basically like a wacky morning zoo radio crew.
When was this?
It was recently.
Oh dear, how embarrassing.
So Harry goes on to say to, in quotes, Greta, I think the mere fact that Donald Trump is pushing the coal industry so big in America, he has blood on his hands. And other stuff like that, which again you go, that's a very mild thing to say, that's a very obvious thing to say. You're supposed to be apolitical.
Yes, that's true.
He said to Greta, quote unquote Greta, you forget, I was in the military for 10 years, so I'm more normal than my family would like to believe. Again, bad-mouthing the family.
No.
Inferring
I think what he's saying is that he's more, not normal in the sense of they're abnormal, but meaning that he's less posh and less...
that kind of more normal.
Yeah, as in like he's more lower middle class. So like he's had to do things like sleep on the ground.
Oh, I see. Normal person. Yes. I took that to mean he was like a Fredo Corleone saying, I'm smart, not like people say.
No.
Right, gotcha.
When I hear that, I think that's sort of
a
self-deprecating thing.
Yeah, you're right. They got so desperate, they started asking him about Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. Because you can actually see where they're like, you know when you get someone on a prank call and they're so dumb, you're being so broad and making it so obvious it's a joke and they're still not cottoning on, and then the jokester gets embarrassed? That's what happened.
Yes.
Thank God. All he said was, I have very little to say on that, but whatever he has done or hasn't done, terrible thing to say, is completely separate from me and my wife. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. But he talked about Boris Johnson being a good man, and again, there's a couple of things I would say about that, but they all boil down to, A, that's not smart, and B, if you do what you're told, people can't just ring you up. They ring the office. The secretary says, we'll call you back on your number. Then they trace the number, find out that it's the right person. So all of that back and forth of, it takes 3 steps to talk to anyone in the royal family, that's for a very good reason. It's to avoid exactly the pitfalls that Harry is determined to step into. Your Honour? I
suppose that's, they've been cut loose from the royal family, so I suppose those are the things he's going to have to figure out.
Well, they're a massive security disaster now where they are, because let me just look into my crystal ball at whatever gated community that they're in now, the Daily Mail are going to spend £1 million on buying a house in that community and then just buzzing up and down the street all day, every day. They're going to turn that little community into a living hell for everyone there because they don't understand the British press and the newspapers and the extent and the lengths that they'll go to. I'm sure these people are saying, you don't understand, Ellen lives here. No one gives a crap about Ellen.
Yeah.
No one is droning over Ellen's house to see her in a veggie garden.
Yeah.
The attention that this pair are going to draw on them is going to be so unprecedented and crazy in a completely uncontrolled environment. And the other thing she's going to do is get involved in the election and get involved in politics.
Well, that's the thing. She's got a talk coming up, I think, is it today or tomorrow, that she's online about get out to vote?
Asinine. Ridiculous.
I thought that was the name of the conference. No, I sent you a link.
She is an idiot.
So
for her now to be out there trading on her royal title or peerage, I guess you'd call it, and getting involved, if you got in politics, that would be crazy and a very big problematic issue for everyone for a variety of reasons, which is why you're not allowed to do it. But for her now, as a member of the British royal family, to get involved in American politics is so problematic.
Is she a member of the British royal family? I thought they basically cut them off, so...
But they're still going to be... Well, I know what you're saying. but they're still leaving themselves open to the fact that no one's interested in Prince Harry because he's a great thinker. This is a news story because of the who of who they are. And that is why people are interested in her. I'm not saying she wasn't a successful actress. She wasn't the international star every person in the world knows who she is, that she was. She is famous now to the degree that she is because of a royal title.
Yeah.
And she's now using that to insinuate herself into politics in a foreign country, which is just problematic and stupid. If she wanted to get involved with something no one could argue about. Slavery, veterans, helping young girls.
She tried to get involved in everything back in, and they always had a problem with what she was doing. She got involved in that the Grenfell Tower cookbook, and the media over there made out that there was links to Al Qaeda through that. Everything that she got involved with, they would go and they would burrow and they would find somebody who looked at somebody the wrong way.
You're saying the media crucified?
Yeah, the media crucified everything she did.
Listen, I will grant you all of the stuff pre-Brexit, all of the press criticism of her and the racist stuff on Twitter. I'm not endorsing, supporting, or saying anything about that other than it was absolutely crazy and wrong. You've then got to be smart about what you get involved in and keep yourself above reproach. So if you don't want criticism and then you get involved in American politics, when there's a million things you could have got involved in, I don't know what I'm saying. I've lost my train of thought. You've shook me. But do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I just sort of feel if they've been told that they have to leave the royal family and not come back, then surely that means that they can live their lives the way they want to and follow the courses that they want to.
Well, Councillor, I will come back at you at that they weren't told to leave and never come back, were they? As you well know.
Well, they were told to leave, but they would always be welcome to come back. But, I mean, how can that possibly be? I mean, how can
if they come back... No, well, the trial... There's no trial here. They're never coming back.
No.
But when the Queen and Prince Harry had a private lunch just before they actually left at the end, post the summit and the agreeing of everything, she, of course, said to him, you can come back any time. And I'm sure she didn't need to add the asterisk because it's obvious of if you're going to do as you're fucking told.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is they can't be in and out. You can't be on the inside representing the Queen and be on the outside doing whatever you want because of things like the Greta Thunberg phone call and various other bad mistakes that they've made because you're not going through the vetting process and the careful what have you involved. For example, Your Honour, whilst everybody in the family was doing their Zoom calls for VJ Day, Meghan had a Zoom call with various supporters on Twitter. While everyone else is thanking veterans, they're thanking people who brawl on Twitter on their behalf. Including, let me find a bit of paper. Well, I can't find it, but by howdy, when I do... okay, wait,
Okay,
back that train up. This was a news story, but I'll get to it now.
Okay.
One of the people that Meghan had the call with and thanked for her support and work on Twitter was someone who tweeted last year referring to Kate as an anorexic, wrinkly hoe.
I'm pretty certain
Don't
other people have said that.
Friggin' dare.
Not me.
This person also tweeted, the Queen wishes she could have raised her children half as good as Doria raised hers anyway, ...
Well, again, has Doria raised a child molester, allegedly?
And this person also tweeted, Meghan's pit stop in the royal family is all these inbred hoes are going to be talking about for the next 20 years.
I see no lies.
Well, it's starting to sound like it's going to be what these pair of hoes are going to be talking about for the next 20 years.
I see no lies there.
My point is, that's now backfired on them because if that were a royal event, anyone they got on the call with would have been vetted, checked, to make sure it wasn't something that was going to blow up in their face. Again, this lack of oversight for them blows up in their own faces just as much as it does for the family. The people behind the scenes aren't trying to actively sabotage them. They're trying to save them from themselves. The prosecution rests.
I don't hold true with your last sentiment that the other side aren't trying to actively...
The family aren't the other side. All right, I was going to let you talk.
No. I just think that there has been some very active white-anting early on in the piece about Harry and Meghan from the Cambridge's press people. So I don't think that they have the support of the royal family. And, you know, I will grant you that I think there's a lot of people here who didn't know how things were going to go. But I certainly don't think Harry for a moment thought that he was going to get the level of attention that he did. And I think 99.9% of this is as a result of him putting his foot down and saying, I'm not letting the media in. And the media just arced it up. And I mean, they have been out of control and ridiculous. And I think, you know, I can't even imagine what it's like to have lived Harry's life. I think that would be just awful. And he's always hated the press being in his life. But of course they're going to make mistakes. They've been so supported. But the same token, we just keep coming back to this thing. They should have the right as two free people to be able to live their lives however they want to. And living your life doesn't mean making mistakes. And, you know, obviously this is a big lesson for them to learn. But, you know, they're essentially private citizens now living in America and trading off their names. And that's the thing they've got to do. They've got to hustle. If you're an actor, you've got to hustle to get work. You can't expect that things are going to fall into your lap as they do if you're a member of the royal family, and there's going to be some hideous mistakes made by them. But I don't think that, you know, we should force people to stay somewhere where they're miserably unhappy and they're being treated badly. And if the palace cared about any of that they could have, you know, got some media training in for them and sat down and explained why they were doing the things that they were doing. I mean, I find it hard to believe that Harry, who's been in secure situations and had to observe silences about where he was going and what he was doing, that he wouldn't have understood if someone had sat down and said, look, this is what we've got to do. If you get your own computer, we've got to load up the software for you because your phone, your computer can get hacked. We've got to put these things on there. And if you bring it around to the IT department every other week, we'll load up the latest things. So I don't know why people didn't tell him or why he didn't get the message, but...
Oh, I can explain to you why he didn't get the message. Because he's a fucking moron.
He's not a moron.
Afraid so. There's just so much that adds up to he's not very bright.
That's
because
right.
He's someone who was born in it.
Mm.
So this has just been a string of him making easily avoidable mistakes and acting surprised about things involved in living in the royal family that I know about. And if we know about them, none of them could have come to a shock to him.
We're a bit older than him, though. And also...
Not very much, thank you.
Yeah, we've also got to remember, he's got that... Sorry to other listeners, but he's got that white, heterosexual, cisgendered man thing of everybody does something for me. I don't have to do anything myself except put my own pants on in the morning. So,
number one, the royal family make that even worse. And number two, I don't think he does have to put his own pants on in the morning. I think he's got a valet who actually even helps him with that.
Well, I wouldn't imagine he does now.
Oh yeah, please. They've got a huge staff at that house.
Really?
And by proxy, everyone's paying for it, but they're living in an extremely grand style there, which I will now begin to pile on about.
Yes, I think there's 16 bathrooms, allegedly.
Yes, and I mean, how many bums have you got? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, you know, you men, you'll call the stump out the back of bathrooms, so...
True.
Tell me about how big the house is, Joey Jojo. I know you're dying to.
I am. But the only other part... Look, I think there's going to have to actually be a part 3 of Finding Freedom.
Okay.
Because we're yet to get to the actual comeuppance, being the announcement of them leaving, the summit of what would be done with them, and then them physically riding off into the sunset.
Mm.
And that's the thing where I want to sort of drop anchor and get right into the details of their version of the story. So we might do that next week, because this has become not only a podcast about books, it's just become a podcast about that book. But I think that's the other reason why they won't stop getting attention, is because the royal reporter world is full of people trying to talk every day about people that there's nothing to say about.
Yes.
And now you can rely on this pair to make a mistake every day. Of course there's intense scrutiny on them, which again makes them think that they're important, when they are very much not. They're just the most likely to make a mistake and provide a story. And now the narrative is very well down the line of her as a villain, him as a Nimrod. That's now just none of this is going to, as I say, and I keep coming back to this, everything they've done has made their situation worse.
Well, you know, we may have to put a pin in that and disagree, because I think that they couldn't have done anything else. I honestly think they couldn't have stayed. What would have happened is that one day someone would have taken a pot shot at her, and or driven her off the road. I honestly think this was going to escalate until she was killed. I think that they whipped the public up there. It was such a furor.
I will say this, and maybe I've made this point before. When they were in the royal security bubble, they were at least physically safe. And I'm not blaming the late and great Lady Di for anything that happened to her, but her refusing royal security turned out to be a fatal error. Had she still had a royal security team, that night would never have happened like that. The fact that she had no royal security, to say it got her killed, I mean, you never know what you can't test what may or may not have happened, but he's now made the same mistake. They're now relatively out in the wind with a private security company as to how they were when there was an entire spy superstructure, James Bond type guys at security and a military force basically protecting them. I mean, you can't compare any sort of home security system to Windsor Castle.
No, that's true, but if they didn't feel safe, they didn't feel safe.
Oh, they didn't feel emotionally safe.
No, I'm saying if they genuinely didn't feel... Like, if you're in a position where you're thinking, well, so long as I toe the line, everything goes okay. I mean, what does it take to have one pissed off courtier make an example of them one day and not, something go awry? And the other thing, as I said, you can't raise Archie in a town or a city where the media has been manipulating the people there to make out his mother as some sort of, evil succubus on earth. I mean, that is going to go sink into the cultural mindset of everyone who grows up there, and that poor kid will have to live with that. Whereas in America, they seem to be being pitched as people who did make a break for freedom and to live life on their own terms, so that at least, he's not going to have to grow up with that spectre hanging over his head all the time.
Well, that's certainly the narrative that they're trying to create with their spokes, and I use the term lightly, man, Omid, out there trying to create that with his various interviews and books and everything else that he does. And I'm not going to get personal about him.
Why? Omid's beautiful.
Of course.
He is. He's
Sure.
a lovely man.
Mm-hmm.
I've been following him longer than you have, honey.
How does he manage to look 12 and also simultaneously like he's had work done? But anyway, moving on to the headline roundup.
So you mean he should look like he's 44 and had no work done?
Oh, right. I've managed to not get personal up until now. Your time's up. Cut a microphone.
Boom.
News headline roundup.
Okay.
Daily Mail.
Oh, God.
Now it's a fun one. Pilfering at the palace. Police arrest Queen servant after a spate of theft, including a Vice Admiral's medal that popped up on eBay for £350.
Oh.
The medal, which is a medal of the highest order, the Order of Bath, that belongs to a Vice Admiral, was nicked from the palace. This isn't an ashtray. This is an incredibly easily traced, people are going to notice it's missing item.
Yeah, hello.
That this genius then listed on eBay for £350. Now, I understand if you're at the palace, and honestly, if I went there for a visit, the temptation to steal an ashtray or a glass or something would be somewhat overwhelming. I understand that.
Well, I've managed to go to the palace, and I've been to Kensington Palace and not nicked anything, but, I did.
I mean, you could go to a tea party and go, I can't stop myself. I'm going to have to put this silver teaspoon in my pocket.
They know, though. They do. They keep a record.
Oh, they must. I'm sure they must have a complete supply. That's one of the things when Prince William did the podcast with the soccer guys.
Oh, yes.
The football guys.
Yes,
he did the podcast
the sports
with.
ball.
Yes, he did a follow-up podcast with them. And they said, I hope we didn't ruin your whole day. Were you busy? What did you do? And one of the guys said, I'm just curious. What's the first thing that you did after we left? And Prince William said, check the silverware. But this guy he took a bespoke picture frame with Prince Harry's insignia on it. He took some stationery, which is less crazy. That's more the kind of thing where you're like, I'm jamming this stationery in my pocket. That's the thing. I'm going to take this envelope is one thing. If you're at a tea party and, the Queen turns around and goes, where's the fuck my glasses? You can't. Do you know what I mean?
I have not been at a party where the hostess said, where the fuck are my glasses? Are they?
They're not going to notice little things.
Yeah, yes.
But this would be like trying to steal the glasses off a face. I mean, this is craziness.
Yeah, it is craziness.
The 37-year-old hospitality assistant had worked at the palace for 6 years when he was arrested at the Royal Mews last Friday. A source said police were informed when staff began noticing items missing from the palace earlier this year.
So, drug problems? gambling problems.
Right. Because number one, even if you did steal something memorable, if you put it up on eBay, you would have to know you're immediately going to get caught. And also, order of Bath, £350? That's at once too much and not enough.
Yes.
Because you would think that's incredibly valuable, but then if I bought it, what am I going to do with it?
Yes. It's those sorts of things I would imagine. I know that, just a sideline, there was an event that some woman went to and she noticed the medals that this gentleman was wearing, and she's like, I know of all the people in the world who've got one of those particular medals, and she went back and researched. It turned out this guy had never been awarded any of these medals and hadn't actually gone to whatever conflict that he'd said.
Oh, God.
And yeah, so she unearthed all that. So people know, when you go to an event and you're wearing medals, they know, if they know what they're on about, they're looking and figuring out who it is, whether you're wearing your medals, your father's medals, your grandfather's medals, and will generally ask you questions about it. So there would have been someone who'd gone, Order of Bath, there's no way that should be on eBay, and alerted the police about that. So,
and I'm fairly sure, if not definitely so, that even if you were to fall on hard times, I don't think you're allowed to sell your own medals and regalia.
That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure you can't. Like, if your grandfather were to die and you were on hard times, I don't think you could sell his garter robes on eBay. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm just assuming that. But
no, I don't.
You would
think
have
I've
to
ever
think
heard,
that's not allowed.
No, I don't imagine.
You'd surely have to return them. The Mirror.
Ugh.
Prince Charles brands rifts rumour with William and Harry complete nonsense.
Well, he would.
Yes, he would, and he did. This obviously came from some
Oh,
courtier.
hang on. Sorry. He came out and addressed a subject in the media, did he?
No. This is rumours that someone at the palace has put out. So this is one of those backstairs stories.
Oh, okay.
But it has come from them, because it's a story of them trying to douse cold water on the story, not stir something up for their own personal amusement and vengeance, like some other bastards we could mention.
So... look, I can't even go. If you think that it's okay to talk about Botox and hair extensions, but to leave it, that Meghan's descended from one of the Jack the Ripper suspects, I don't even know where to go with this.
Well, for all we know, that could all be true. The allegation that things are hot and cold between father and sons has been dismissed as complete nonsense by palace insiders.
Okay.
Although I did notice that Omid, in an interview, he described someone else's relationship as hot and cold. So that's definitely one of his expressions.
Oh, okay.
So that didn't come from someone else. It's something that he commonly says. So that might be one of the large swaths of things in the book that he just clearly made up himself. Included in the things that were denied were that Charles quietly supported Meghan's decision to sue a British newspaper. The book claims that he absolutely didn't do that because he and William and the main administration of the family are playing, for better or worse, and whether it's a good idea or not, they are maintaining a very you be nice to me and we'll be nice to you relationship with the British press at the moment. So there's no way that Charles would want to be painted as someone who supported suing the press, whether he did or didn't. And I can't imagine that he did.
I can imagine that he did.
Yeah, as soon as I said that out loud, it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
but he definitely quietly... Yeah, as soon as I said that out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, he could have quietly done it, but he definitely would not want to. I mean, once you've put it in a book, it ain't quiet anymore.
Yes, that's true.
The Guardian. Prince Andrew link poses awkward question before R&A's Women's Open. The R&A is the Royal and Ancient Golf Club.
Ah, okay.
And it's basically one of the fanciest golf clubs, and you know what a big deal golf clubs are. And other golf clubs seem to take their lead from them. For example, Prince Andrew is also still an honorary member of the Royal Burgess Golfing Society in Edinburgh.
My family had nothing to do with that.
Are your Burgesses from Edinburgh?
Originally, somewhere around that area.
Well, the Royal Burgess Golfing Society still has Andrew as a member, and when they were questioned about it, they said, we are following the lead of the R&A. As far as I'm aware, he is still a member there. They are the governing body, so we take our lead from them. If they did something, I think we would follow suit, which makes it obvious why the R&A's position is significant. And when they have the women's golfing tournament there, he's surely going to be sane enough to not turn up as he usually does.
Oh, goodness me, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? You would hope so, but...
That's just one of these, the house of cards. If someone shuns him, people are going to break cover and go, oh, well, we're not going to have him at our gentlemen's club. We're not going to have him be an honorary member of the Owl Spotters, yes, or whatever society.
The Badger Botherers.
And although I don't know what he's got left now or where he can go or what he can do, Not that I want him to either, but it's just interesting.
Mm.
I assume he's going to have the sense to put himself under house arrest and just literally hide now forever.
What else can
That's
he do?
the literal least
Yeah.
he can do. Because they think that they're going to slowly edge him back out into the light. No.
Mm.
We were talking about the house before, Meghan and Harry's
Yes,
house. And why I glossed over that is there's a couple of news stories about it.
Mm.
Number one, that house is a tacky monstrosity.
But it's in Santa Barbara, and Harry wanted to go live in Santa Barbara.
The one thing you don't do if you have any class is move into what is basically like a ride at Disneyland. It's a house that's made up to look like an old castle, which is tacky as fuck.
I didn't get that impression when I looked at it.
Of course that's what it looks like. It's a modern home.
Well, he's got
It's
to live
not
in
a 200-year-old castle. They've basically moved into like a castle set.
Really, I didn't get that impression when I looked at it.
Well, it's very chateau-esque.
Well, it would naturally be because it's huge and it's on a huge bit of land.
I mean, I would say either move into an old house or move into a modern house that looks modern. You never move into a Disneyland display house.
Well, they got a very good deal for it
Yes, no wonder.
because of the stripper pole.
Not only that, but because of the extremely, extremely bad idea of buying the house in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The son.
Mm-hmm.
Scarface oligarch.
Yes, the Russian.
Harry and Meghan bought house from dangerous man who made her life hell, says ex-wife of Russian tycoon.
Oh, like they were ever going to say anything nice about this house purchase.
Why would you give many, many millions of dollars to buy a house from a nasty, horrible man like that?
It's been on the market for quite an extended period of time. They couldn't sell it and they took a massive profit loss. I shouldn't be responsible for the activities of the people that owned the houses that I bought from them.
Harry and Meghan are responsible for everything that ever happens before, during, after, near, around or behind them.
Yes, exactly.
Like this ex-wife, Anna, said she didn't believe that Harry and Meghan knew about her ex-partner, and she doesn't want to criticise them personally, but she did note that their advisors showed a lack of due diligence, which is...
It's not as though the fucker's still living in the house. It's not as though they're condoning Russian oligarchs by buying a piece of property. Do you know how many bloody Russian oligarchs are around Kensington House? Like, if you go anywhere near the Danish or the Netherlands embassy out there, bloody Russian oligarchs are buying those places and putting in the iceberg, going down 7 stories down underneath. They are within stone's throwing distance of Kensington. Are you supposed to say, well, we can't have these fuckers anywhere near Kensington Palace? You can't control who's owned the property before you. You can maybe be able to control who you sell it to, but they are not responsible for the activities of whoever owned the house before them.
Well, you're making a good point. You know what that means. It's time to change the topic. $11.2 million for that house.
That's very good. Is that US?
£11.2 million.
Oh, okay. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
You know what? That's still less than they would pay for a place at Kensington, because where I was staying at Christmas time or New Year's time, the place beside us had apparently gone for something like £30 million.
Sure, but that's the house next to insert property here. I mean, of course that's...
Yes.
Do you know what? I'm getting scared. Let's move on.
Yeah, move on.
The Daily Star. Meghan Markle and Harry join swanky private members club with a £240,000 initiation fee. A joining fee of £240,000
I'm sorry, but I'm going
for
to need...
a private club.
I'm going to need to see something other than the Daily Star, and because the Daily Star said it, I'm going to need a notary certified copy of their invoice and their Amex bill before I believe it.
They check the facts, recheck them, and then what do?
Throw them out the door.
Check them again.
Yeah.
The couple will have to fork out an eye-watering £240,000 initiation fee at the Coral Casino Beach and Cabana Club.
That's such bullshit. I cannot believe that for a moment, and I won't believe it until I've actually seen them at a function there.
Well, I will be accepting your apology when we find it out, because it's absolutely true. They will also have to shell out an annual membership charge for the club, which has Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones herself, and Ellen DeGeneres as members.
Well, maybe they waive the fees for them. I know.
Listen
They're
here,
not
you.
there. They're not going to that.
Of course they are. The venue, which has a 600-member capacity, is part of Santa Barbara's Four Seasons Resort and is not far from the mansion they bought in Montecito in her native California. Of course they did this. There is a whopping 22 acres of gardens on the site, as well as a saltwater aquarium bar with tropical fish that who cares. The point is, £11.2 million for the house. Nearly £500,000 for them to join the local golf club.
Assuming that's actually correct, and they're just not making that up.
Thank you. We will assume that's correct. It's reported that the pair paid $3.8 million deposit to the City National Bank, leaving a $7.4 million mortgage over 30 years, meaning to pay off the house, they have to come up with again I'm going to say whopping, $34,750 a month. That's £417,000 a year. Getting paid to do what? Talk, give their brilliant insights. And why? Because of who they are. And why? Because of the family that they're betraying, trying to tear down and attack.
They're not betraying them.
Attack and betray.
Has Harry come out once and said anything about William's affair? No,
this
he has
whole
not.
goddamn motherfucking book is about attacking them, and you know it. How dare you? Mirror Online.
Oh, God, this just gets worse.
Prince Andrew set for royal honour next year,
What?
despite stepping down amid scandal. Look, this isn't a massive deal, and it's not technically an honour, but it is an honour.
Sorry, not technically an honour, but it is an
Well,
honour.
when I say, to me, an honour is like being made the knight of something, or, you know
Round
what I mean?
tables?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Husseini?
Yeah, yes. Like being made a Knight of the Garter or something, that's what we think of as a royal honour. But something that's an honour for the royal family is having the bells rung at Westminster Abbey when it is your birthday. And according to the current, I'm going to say schedule, whatever they might call it, as it stands, they still plan next February to ring the bells for the Queen's son when he turns 61.
Well, I think young women need to just get out there with some placards and sort of go around under Westminster Abbey, you know, and create a bit of a media scene.
Well, I was thinking it'd be more safe if they just hung a bell around his neck so that
Yeah,
you know if he's running around with his knob out. It's for the safety of everyone.
So that, you know, the Randy, the bull that lives down the road, put a
Yes.
bell around his neck.
Yeah.
Yes,
And if the bell starts sounding muffled, it's too late.
you're bad.
Thank you all for joining us this week. Thank you, Catherine, for lighting up my life as always.
Well, for at least the next week.
Also, we'll see how it goes. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/royalgossipod, where, like the photo of Princess Beatrice, anything that we talk about along the way will be sticking up on the Facebook page so you can play along, and we'll be providing other updates during the week. Next week, we've still got more of the book to go, so
Yes.
that's becoming a long piece of string. So I guess we'll be back here for that. Do you have anything to add, Kate, before we close proceedings for the day?
No, I feel perfectly safe and secure and not harmed in any way.
And I would like to just say that neither me nor any member of my family have any complaints or concerns.
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Say goodbye, Katie.
Goodbye, Katie.